Bitcoin continues to look good against the stock market, and it's currently sitting at $95,000. In today's video, I'll be going over the scenarios that occurred in 2019 and in 2022, suggesting that we could see a potential dump in the price of Bitcoin. But if we can hold above a certain support level, I would be favoring an all-time high. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So first off, here are the scenarios that I'm talking about. You'll remember a couple of videos ago, I talked about the downside case for Bitcoin, and I just wanted to reemphasize what that looks like from the 2019 perspective and the 2022 perspective. On this chart over here, this is the current price action, now chopping higher as we discussed in my previous video. Hopping all the way up into this range would ultimately be very positive for Bitcoin if we can hold it as support. Now, my base case, as I've continued to share, is that I think it's possible that we get rejected here. If we chop around like this, at this previous breakdown point, which we identified a couple videos ago, I think that ultimately Bitcoin could be moving lower. From a price action perspective, what makes me say this? First, let's go all the way back to 2019 to go over what we discussed in my previous video in case you missed it. As we can see here, as I continue to zoom into this chart, Bitcoin saw the same kind of price action back here in 2019, where we ended up making that high and then consolidating before a major breakdown. Once we had that major breakdown, a lot of people thought that the low was indeed in. We got a nice pump back into this zone only to get rejected and then ultimately making a brand new low. This was back in 2019, but this isn't the only example. If we take a look at 2022, I decided to overlay this chart with the price action that we're currently seeing. If I grab this price action and take it all the way to where we are today, as we can see, it looks relatively similar. Let me zoom in and adjust this pattern. And as we can see, towards the end of 2021, this is what happened to Bitcoin. We pumped, we came back down, and then we made a brand new all-time high. But we are currently sitting at the exact levels where Bitcoin went ahead and got rejected, put in a little bit of a higher low right here around $85,000 that would be, and then went ahead and put in a new all-time high for the cycle. This is just replicating that 2021 price action. Now, I'm not saying that this is for sure going to happen, but the resemblance is uncanny. And if this were to play out, Bitcoin would be chopping around this range for a little bit longer to get rejected at the top of this range, which I'll remind you was the initial breakdown point, then put in a new low below $85,000 to pump higher and hit us with an all-time high. Now, this isn't my base case, but I just thought it was interesting to share with you. My base case currently is that Bitcoin will go ahead and chop and likely get rejected. But as I said, the bullish case scenario here, and I will keep repeating this because some of you think that I'm a perma bear, is for us to continue higher, chop around, and hold this key level as support, and then we can put in a new all-time high, in my honest opinion. That reminds me, if you want to trade this price action, you have the first link in my description down below, which brings you directly to Weeks. With my link, you can earn a 20% deposit bonus. I actually just had a member reach out to me and show me his bonus. He deposited $10,000 into his Weeks account, and he got that $2,000 back for free for trading. All you need is an email and a password to sign up. It's the first link in my description down below. Something that I really wanted to share with you as well in this video is part of my free Telegram community. By the way, if you haven't already signed up, there's a link down below to this community. But basically what I said today is that if Bitcoin is really bullish, the price likely won't go under 91.8K and should push to 100K and all-time highs. If we find our way under the 90K region, it's highly probable that we would retest the lows around 80K. As we can see on the chart here, Bitcoin is now approaching a pretty important resistance level. This is a little bit of a more detailed chart than the last one I showed you. And so I would be expecting some chop around this level all the way up to $96,000 if we can make it there. Then if we are to get rejected, this is the key level that I'd be looking at, which happens to coincide quite accurately with the top of this red line on this chart, which is the top of the bull market support band, sitting right around $92,000, and my level is 91.8K. Lose 90K, and I think that we will make our way into the low 80K region. But if we can continue to hold this level as support, I do think that there won't be many pullbacks and Bitcoin could go ahead and put in a new all-time high. And as I discussed in yesterday's video, it's very clear that Michael Saylor will be putting in a buy order for Bitcoin if he hasn't already. Usually when he posts his Bitcoin accumulation chart on the Sunday, he goes ahead and announces his Bitcoin purchase on the Monday. So keep your eyes out for that. Then we have some more developments in terms of tariffs. Now, China denies that their president called President Trump as he claimed. Trump has continuously said that they're in talks with China, and these two presidents are continuing to say completely different stories. And if we take a look at some further developments, the Japan economy minister said no change to our stance. We are demanding full removal of US tariffs. Now, we heard last week that Japan and the US were in some pretty solid negotiations. What should we believe here? The only thing I can tell you is that if we take a look at Bitcoin, it continues to grind higher. Now, this is ultimately very positive considering for the stock market, it is red in pre-markets. So Bitcoin is continuing to show its dominant performance compared to stocks. And if we can continue it, I would imagine that this level would be holding as support. If you're a bull, this is what you want to look for. Something that was pretty interesting that I found on X was that governments are actually selling their Bitcoin reserves. Didn't think you would hear that, would you? According to CoinGecko, governments worldwide have sold 65,850 Bitcoins, reducing their reserves from 529,591 to 463,741 since July 2024. As we can see here, Germany no longer has any Bitcoin, neither does Ukraine. El Salvador, of course, only accumulating. Bhutan sold some Bitcoin. The UK and China kept their Bitcoin stack, and the US has actually sold some of their Bitcoins. If the US isn't careful, China will be at a point where they will own more Bitcoin than them. And that sums up today's quick update video. As you can see here, we will have a pretty volatile week with a lot of key events. We have the CB consumer confidence data on Tuesday, along with the March JOLTS job data. On Wednesday, we have the US Q1 2025 GDP data, March PCE inflation data, and then on Friday we have the April job reports. All while 25% of the S&P 500 companies will report their earnings. It should be a very volatile week. I know I shared this in yesterday's video, but this is just a reminder as to what you can expect in this upcoming week. As always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.